I'm seeing a lot of comments though about AP needs to be fired, and I understand that this is the fourth year in a row since, we were in the wild card that we underperformed and the head coach isn't making the right decisions and all that. I completely get it. I understand. I don't think it's a smart move for us though to fire our head coach, or AP at least, 7 weeks into his first full year of being the full-time head coach. I know that he had 9 weeks or 8 weeks, I think, of interim head coaching, last season, but that was with a staff that he did not bring in. That was with players that he necessarily didn't have that much of a say in keeping on the roster outside of, him being the linebacker coach at the time. And obviously with him being the interim, defense played a lot better. Offense still wasn't really great. And now in this season, same thing. Offense isn't great. Defense, I think, has taken a step back because we've got some players, again, that are injured. Also, too, we have a lot of players that are needing to be held accountable, and we're seeing that kind of being played out right now. I don't think that the Raiders have given up. I just think that they're going through what a team goes through when you lose, and that's a lot of turmoil. The pressure is hot, and until they win, it won't go away. It's going to feel like the world is coming to an end until they, win and get that monkey off their back. And calling for AP's job, though, just to me is a little bit immature. Or not immature, excuse me, is a little bit premature is what I mean to do right now and this soon. We haven't had enough time to really determine if it's AP, the players, maybe it's Telesco and how he evaluates draft picks and all that stuff. So to say that AP needs to go, that's really tough because very rarely you're going to find a head coach that's going to come in, in year one and change everything to where we're contenders. Jim Harbaugh right now in LA right now with the Chargers, he just had a loss against the Cardinals, and that offense outside the offensive line and the run game don't look very good. Justin Herbert was able to throw it a lot, but they don't really have any weapons right now. And even though it's his first season back and he coached the 49ers and took them to the Super Bowl and all this stuff, it's still like working out the kinks, and they don't clearly have the team that they are saying is Super Bowl contenders quite yet. And the Raiders are in that boat right now too. They don't have the roster that is going to be able to compete with Kansas City, with Detroit, with Buffalo, with name the contender. We don't have the team for that yet. We had a very good win against the Ravens because our defense played hard when it was healthy. Devontae Adams was on the offense, so we had an offensive weapon, and we had pretty good play call. We also had momentum on our side. I also think a lot of it was the Ravens, did kind of shoot themselves in the foot in certain play calls and decision making, which worked in our favor. But that doesn't mean that our roster can go up with the best of the best quite yet. And to not let AP have at least a couple of seasons, 3 seasons even, or at least the full extent to the 5-year deal that he just got signed for is really hard to say, like, yeah, after 7 weeks, we got to get going. It's got to look rough. It's his first head coaching gig full time. Dan Campbell of the Detroit Lions had some really rough first years. Was really, really tough to watch. And it looked like the same old Lions. We would make fun of Dan Campbell mentioning about biting kneecaps. And then you would see clips of Dan Campbell in training camp or practice clips where he is very emotional, very vulnerable, and very adamant about how much he cares and loves his players and how he's, trust in him and he's going to get them to success. And he promises them that. And look at where they're at now. They are the top contending team in the NFC, and they just went toe to toe with the undefeated Minnesota Vikings with a defense that has been shutting out quarterbacks.
Drew Code Sports Talk is supported by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is your go-to app for tickets, making it super easy to find the best deals. They even rate each ticket deal on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting your money's worth. And as a special thank you to our listeners, we've got a promo code just for you. Use DrewCode at checkout to get $20 off your first order. That's $20 off your first purchase, whether it's for the game that you've been dying to see or that concert that everybody is talking about. Head over to SeatGeek now, find your perfect seat, and use DrewCode for $20 off your first order. SeatGeek. Get your tickets to the action today.
Majority of the season, Jared Goff, the Detroit Lions, Dan Campbell, they played great. They were able to have their way on the line of scrimmage. They were able to, when they didn't have a lead, they were able to remain calm, make plays, and ultimately came away with a late field goal to seal it, and then just rely on their defense to not give up the lead, which they didn't. And they, defeated the Minnesota Vikings in division. And again, that's a testament to how well coached, how well disciplined, how much they play hard for their coach. And I think AP will get there, but we'll never know if we let him go after 7 weeks. And I get it. Like, we have had decades of bad coaching, blame it on maybe the ownership with Mark Davis, whatever the case may be, whatever the gripe is, or your issue that you've had with Raiders about how they've been running the organization. I get it. I've been a fan for 20 something years as well, since I was really young. And I get it. Like, I've seen them when they had a really fun team, when we had the likes of Jerry Rice, Tim Brown, Rich Ganning. Like, we had a fun team for a while. And then I remember the Super Bowl where we lost to the Buccaneers, and the years following that, how bad we were. The bad draft picks, the bad signings, Jamarcus Russell. I remember that. I remember passing on Michael Crabtree for Darius Haywood-Bay, even though we could have had both players if we would have just drafted correctly, because of Al Davis when he was alive at the time. I remember signing Matt Flynn to a huge contract, and he wasn't even the starting quarterback. It ended up being Derek Carr, who we drafted. I remember all of that. And don't get me wrong, I'm ready for it to be over too. And I think we saw glimmers of hope for the Raiders and success and expectations when we had Derek Carr. And, we got close when 2016, obviously we were led to the playoffs, which was great up until Carr broke his foot, or his leg, excuse me. And then we've been climbing since. And then even the years that we had John Gruden, we started off slow, and then we started looking like a team, like a disciplined team, an aggressive team. And unfortunately, that came to a halt with the Henry Ruggs situation, with John Gruden's offensive emails and whatever else that basically, unfortunately, got him removed as head coach of the Raiders then, to where we had Rich Bisaccia kind of lead us the rest of the way. So we've been fighting to get relevant since that time. And I get it. Like, we want to get there. We want to be a mature team. We want to be a team that's respected and not laughed at, I get it. But we're not going to get there if we keep firing a head coach after a handful of games. I agree with the Josh McDaniels firing for sure. I'm not trying to say that we should have let that run out for 3 or 5 more years. Like, Mark Davis made the right decision on that. I don't think we're in the same boat with Josh McDaniels and Antonio Pierce. I think they're 2 different coaches. We're just struggling with the same roster, and it's going to take time to get out of it. And especially with AP and Tom Telesco, let's let some adults in the room, let them kind of figure this out, because Tom Telesco has a really good record of drafting good quality players when he was with the Chargers. And the way it all ended with Brandon Staley and his tenure, that's one thing. But now we have Tom Telesco, we have AP. We got to put a little bit of trust in these guys and let them kind of let them get us into the future. We can't just jump off the ship just because we are hitting some rough waves. It's got to get rougher before it gets better, and we need to just ride this out. And I get it. Like, the offense looks bad, defense looks bad. There will probably be a lot of coaching changes next season as well. I don't think AP is one of those coaches that need to be changed. I think, too, let him learn from this experience. He'll never be a great head coach if he doesn't go through some bad coaching years. This is probably just one of those years, probably one of those times where he's got to figure it out. So that's what I would say with that. I mean, Raider Nation, it's going to be rough. It sucks. It sucks having hope for your team on a Sunday or Monday or Thursday, whenever they play. And even though we're at this year, like, not a great team, and you get fired up for game day and you have a little bit of hope, and then they give you a little bit of that hope when you're within scoring and striking distance of, like, let's say the Rams, for example, which, could make us feel a lot better. And then we don't execute because we're just not there yet. And then we're let down again. Like, I get it. We're right there, and it's going to be rough. It still will probably get a lot rougher. But just hang in there. We've come this far. We didn't come this far to come this far. So let's just hunker down and, let's just look for the future. We know that this isn't the team that's going to get us a Super Bowl. I mean, I think the expectations of that were pretty explanatory. But for the future now, it's just like, okay, what can we do to get this team on the right track? Who are some future prospects? Let's look ahead. So I think that's what I would say for that.